walking out across the land when the banker came and took everything that he had. Took his truck, took his cattle back, everything but his cowboy hat. You could see the feel of failure in his eyes. But someday my people will fight, we're gonna rise up, and this is for the cause, and this is for the truth, and this is for the people, even the ones who I'm so tired of the picture that's been painted, all these lies that have all been fabricated. It's in the movies, it's on the TV, but it's all wrong. Here the truth is, it's a reality, it's in this song. A change is gonna come. She said, I'm sorry, that's all I have today. And she packed her groceries, he took the bread away. Took her milk, took her baking dish, everything but a grocery list. You could see the feel of failure in her eyes. But someday my people will fight, we're gonna rise up, and this is for the cause, this is for the truth, this is for the people, even the ones who I'm so tired of the picture that's been painted, all these lies that have all been fabricated. It's in the movies, it's on the TV, but it's all wrong. Here the truth is, it's a reality, it's in this song. A change is gonna come. It's gonna come. This is for the cause, this is for the truth, this is for the people, even the ones who